Right now, someone less talented than you is succeeding. Why? Because they carry themselves like they've already won. They speak without doubt. They move without hesitation. They act like the world owes them nothing, and paradoxically, the world gives them everything. Meanwhile, you overthink, you replay conversations, you wait for certainty before you act. You need to feel confident before you become confident. And as you wait for that feeling, someone else takes the position, the opportunity, the respect that should have been yours. Confidence isn't something you earn, it's something you claim. And if you don't claim it now, you never will. Marcus Aurelius understood this 2,000 years ago. The emperor-philosopher who ruled Rome didn't wait to feel worthy of the throne. He became worthy by acting as if he already was. He knew that confidence isn't a gift from the gods. It's a choice made in defiance of doubt. This video will strip away every excuse you've been hiding behind. You'll learn how to kill hesitation, speak like someone who expects to be obeyed, and move through the world like you own every room you enter. Watch closely, because from this moment forward, your weakness will no longer be tolerated. It will be executed. You weren't born uncertain. You were trained that way. By parents who taught you to seek permission, by teachers who rewarded compliance over courage, by a society that punished boldness and celebrated mediocrity. What exists inside you now is not a man. It's a domesticated animal, conditioned to wait, programmed to doubt, built to apologize for existing. That voice in your head that says, "What if I fail?" That hesitation before you speak. That need to rehearse your words 10 times before you say them once. That's not you. That's the inner coward. The part of you still terrified of judgment, still waiting for someone to give you permission to be powerful. And if you don't kill him, you will spend your entire life as a spectator in your own story. Marcus Aurelius faced this same war. As a young man thrust into absolute power, he could have crumbled under the weight of expectation. Instead, he wrote in his meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He understood that confidence isn't about controlling the world. It's about controlling your response to it. Your transformation begins with a brutal awakening. The world doesn't care how you feel. It only responds to how you act. You can be terrified and still speak with authority. You can be uncertain and still move with purpose. You can doubt yourself privately and still project absolute conviction publicly. Because confidence at its core is not authenticity, it's discipline. Here's your first rule. Act before you feel ready. This is where most men fail. They wait for confidence to arrive like it's a package being delivered. It never comes. Because confidence isn't a feeling, it's a consequence. You don't become confident and then act. You act, and confidence follows. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Stop preparing. Stop planning. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is now, and it's imperfect, and that's exactly why it's perfect. You speak even when your voice shakes. You approach even when your hands sweat. You make the decision even when you're not sure. Why? Because every action taken despite fear builds the neural pathways of confidence. Every word spoken through doubt rewires your brain. Every move made without certainty strengthens your identity as someone who doesn't need certainty. This is the inversion most will never understand. Confident people aren't confident because they feel good. They feel good because they acted confidently first. The action creates the feeling, not the other way around. So you walk into that room. You start that conversation. You make that claim. Not when you're ready, but especially when you're not. Because the man who waits to feel ready will wait forever. Step 2. Speak like your words are law. Not suggestions, not opinions. Law. Listen to how most people talk. Rising intonation at the end of sentences, turning statements into questions. Constant qualifiers. I think maybe we could possibly consider. That's not speech. That's an apology for having a mouth. When you speak, you eliminate uncertainty from your voice. Lower your pitch, slow your tempo, remove the filler words. Never say, "I'm not sure, but," or "this might be wrong, but." Those are surrender signals. They tell everyone listening that you don't believe your own words, and if you don't believe them, why should anyone else? Marcus Aurelius understood the power of decisive language. As emperor, he couldn't afford to sound uncertain. One hesitant decree could collapse an empire. So he spoke and wrote with absolute clarity. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Notice the structure. No hedging. No maybe. Pure declaration. That's how you speak from this moment forward. When someone asks your opinion, you don't say, "I kind of think." You say, "Here's what's true." When you make a statement, you don't soften it with, "in my opinion." Your opinion is implied by the fact that you're speaking. State it like a fact and let others deal with the discomfort of disagreeing. And here's what happens. People don't analyze the truth of your words. They submit to the certainty of your delivery. Because humans are not logical creatures. We're tribal. We follow conviction. If you sound sure, we assume you're right. If you sound doubtful, we dismiss you before you finish the sentence. Step 3. Control your body like it's a weapon. Posture, pace, presence. Most men have no idea what their body is communicating. They slouch, they fidget, they move too fast, talk too fast, react too fast. All of it screams one thing: insecurity. When you enter a room, you don't rush. You don't glance around for approval. You walk at a measured pace. Your shoulders are back, your head is level. Your eyes scan the room not nervously, but deliberately, like you're assessing territory. Why? Because you are. Confident men don't enter spaces, they occupy them. Your posture alone can dominate a conversation before you say a word. Stand tall, not arrogantly, but like someone who has nothing to prove. When you sit, you don't collapse into the chair. You place yourself with intention. Your movements are economic. You don't waste energy on nervous gestures. Everything you do is deliberate. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. But it's also in your way of moving." The Stoics understood that the body and mind are connected. When you carry your body with confidence, your mind follows. When you move with purpose, you begin to think with purpose. This is why military training emphasizes posture and discipline. It's not just about looking strong, it's about becoming strong through the act of appearing strong. So you slow down, you take up space, you stop apologizing with your body, and watch how the room rearranges itself around you. Step 4. Embrace discomfort as your training ground. Here's the truth most self-help won't tell you. Confidence doesn't come from comfort. It comes from repeatedly doing things that terrify you until they don't anymore. You're afraid to speak in public? You speak in public. You're terrified of rejection? You put yourself in positions where rejection is guaranteed. You're uncomfortable with confrontation? You initiate difficult conversations. This is how you build real, unshakable confidence. Not through affirmations, not through visualization, through voluntary exposure to exactly what you fear most. Marcus Aurelius lived this philosophy. He didn't want to be emperor, he wanted to be a philosopher. But duty called, and instead of shrinking from the discomfort of leadership, he used it to forge himself into one of history's greatest rulers. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Your fear is not the obstacle to confidence. Your fear is the path to confidence. Every time you feel that knot in your stomach, that voice saying, "Don't do it," that's your signal. That's exactly what you need to do. Not recklessly, but deliberately. You identify the thing that makes you most uncomfortable, and you walk directly toward it. Because on the other side of that discomfort is a version of you that no longer fears it. And the more you do this, the more your baseline confidence rises. What terrified you last month becomes routine. What paralyzed you last year becomes easy. You're not eliminating fear. You're expanding your capacity to act despite it. And that capacity is confidence. Step 5. Detach from outcomes. This is the Stoic secret that separates unshakable confidence from fragile ego. Most people tie their self-worth to results. They succeed, they feel confident, they fail, they collapse. That's not confidence, that's dependency. Real confidence comes from knowing you'll be fine regardless of what happens. You speak your truth whether people agree or not. You take action whether it works or not. You show up whether you win or not. Because your value doesn't come from external validation. It comes from internal commitment. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire that was constantly threatened by plague, war, and betrayal. He could have tied his confidence to Rome's success. Instead, he wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He understood that true power comes from accepting the worst possible outcome and still choosing to act with virtue. This is how you become unconquerable. You accept that you might fail. You accept that people might reject you. You accept that your best effort might not be enough. And then you act anyway. Not because you're guaranteed success, but because you're committed to living as someone who doesn't need guarantees. When you detach from outcomes, something radical happens. You stop trying to control things you can't control. You stop wasting energy on anxiety about the future. You focus entirely on what's in your power, your effort, your attitude, your response. And paradoxically, when you stop needing things to go your way, they often do. Because you're no longer desperate. You're no longer attached. You're operating from a place of genuine strength, not masked weakness. Step 6. Build your confidence through competence. Here's where the philosophy meets the practical. You can act confident without being competent, and you'll fool some people for a while. But real, deep, unassailable confidence comes from actually being good at something. So you don't just pretend to be capable, you become capable. You identify the skills that matter in your domain and you master them. You read, you practice, you fail, you adjust, you improve. You become undeniable. Marcus Aurelius wasn't just a philosopher. He was a trained military commander, a student of rhetoric, a practitioner of logic. He built his confidence on a foundation of genuine skill. And when he spoke, people listened, not just because he was emperor, but because he had earned the right to be heard. This is the difference between fake confidence and real power. Fake confidence is loud, it's defensive, it crumbles under pressure. Real confidence is quiet, it's secure. It doesn't need to prove anything because it's built on proof. So you don't just walk into the gym and pretend to be strong. You lift until you are strong. You don't just act like you know what you're talking about. You study until you do. You don't just perform confidence, you build it through relentless competence. And here's what happens. When you know you've put in the work, when you know you're prepared, when you know you're capable, your confidence becomes effortless. You don't have to fake it. You're not acting. You're simply being who you've become through discipline and effort. Step 7. Maintain the citadel of your mind. Marcus Aurelius used this metaphor constantly. Your mind is a fortress, and if you don't guard it, anyone can walk in and take control. Most people let their confidence be hijacked by every criticism, every setback, every piece of negative feedback. Someone questions them and they spiral. Someone rejects them and they crumble. That's because they never built walls around their mind. You build those walls now. You decide what gets in. You decide what deserves your attention. You decide what has the power to move you. When someone criticizes you, you evaluate it rationally. Is it valid? Then you integrate it and improve. Is it invalid? Then you dismiss it and move on. You don't let it live in your head rent-free. When something doesn't go your way, you don't catastrophize. You ask, what can I control? What can I learn? You extract value and discard the rest. When people try to shake your confidence with their doubt, you don't argue. You don't explain. You simply continue. Because their doubt is not your burden to carry. Marcus wrote, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I shall gladly change. I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone." But notice what he's not saying. He's not saying, "I'll doubt myself because you doubt me." He's saying, "Show me truth and I'll adapt. Otherwise, your opinion is irrelevant." That's mental sovereignty. That's the citadel. And when you build it, you become immune to the chaos outside. Your confidence becomes internal, unshakable, permanent. Step 8. Live as if you're already the man you want to become. This is the final transformation. Stop living as who you are and start living as who you're becoming. Marcus Aurelius ascended to the throne at a young age. He could have waited years to grow into the role. Instead, he immediately began acting as an emperor should act, writing as a philosopher should write, leading as a ruler should lead. He didn't wait to become worthy. He became worthy by acting as if he already was. You do the same. You want to be confident? You walk like a confident man walks. You speak like a confident man speaks. You make decisions like a confident man makes decisions. At first, it will feel like pretending. That's fine. Keep pretending. Because here's the secret. There's no difference between pretending to be confident and being confident. They're the same action. The only difference is internal narrative, and that narrative changes through repetition. When you act confident enough times, the act becomes automatic. The mask becomes the face. The performance becomes the identity. This is not fake it till you make it. This is become it by doing it. You're not lying. You're practicing. You're training your nervous system to operate from a confident baseline. And over time, the gap between who you are and who you're acting as closes, until one day there's no gap at all. You're not pretending anymore. You simply are. Now understand this. The world will test you. People will challenge your confidence. Situations will shake your resolve. Setbacks will make you doubt everything you've built. Good. Let them come. Because confidence forged in comfort is decoration. Confidence forged in adversity is armor. When someone questions you, you don't waver. You've done the work. You know your worth. Their doubt is their problem, not yours. When you fail, you don't collapse. You adapt. Marcus Aurelius faced plague, invasion, betrayal, and the death of children. He didn't let any of it break him. He wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." He chose to see obstacles as opportunities to practice his philosophy, to strengthen his resolve, to prove to himself that external circumstances had no power over his internal state. You do the same. Every challenge becomes evidence that you can handle challenges. Every setback becomes proof that you can recover. Every criticism becomes an opportunity to refine your edge. You're not building confidence that needs perfect conditions. You're building confidence that thrives in chaos. The kind that gets stronger with every test. The kind that makes you dangerous. Here's the truth they won't tell you in the self-help books. Confidence isn't about feeling good all the time. It's about being okay with feeling bad and acting anyway. It's not about eliminating doubt. It's about acting despite doubt. It's not about always winning. It's about being willing to lose and still showing up tomorrow. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The strength he's talking about isn't the absence of difficulty. It's the presence of resolve in the face of difficulty. So you stop waiting for the day when everything feels easy. That day doesn't exist. You accept that there will always be fear. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be risk. And you act anyway. Not because you're fearless, but because you've decided that fear no longer gets to make your decisions. You've decided that uncertainty is not a reason to hesitate. You've decided that risk is the price of living as someone who matters. And when you make that decision, when you truly internalize it, something shifts. You stop being controlled by your emotions. You start controlling them. You stop reacting to life. You start directing it. You stop being a passenger. You become the driver. And that's when real confidence arrives. Not as a feeling, as a fact. You've been rebuilt. Not through motivation, but through philosophy. Not through hype, but through discipline. You killed the hesitation that kept you small. You didn't wait to feel ready. You acted, and readiness followed. You learned to speak with the authority of someone who expects to be heard. You learned to move through the world like you own every space you occupy. You learned to embrace discomfort as the forge where confidence is made. You learned to detach from outcomes and anchor yourself in effort. You learned to build competence as the foundation of genuine power. You learned to guard your mind like a fortress. And above all, you learn to live as the man you're becoming instead of the boy you were. That's what creates legends. Not talent, not luck, not perfect circumstances. Discipline, resolve, the willingness to act when every cell in your body screams to retreat. You're no longer the man who waits for permission. You're the man who takes what's his. You're no longer the man who needs to feel confident. You're the man who acts confidently regardless of how he feels. You're no longer hoping the world will see your worth. You're demonstrating it through every action, every word, every decision. So no, this wasn't just about confidence. This was about sovereignty, about taking complete ownership of who you are and who you're becoming. Marcus Aurelius said it best: waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Like this video if you're done waiting for confidence to find you. Subscribe if you're ready to build it through action, discipline, and relentless self-mastery. Because this isn't self-help, this is philosophy weaponized, and you just became the practitioner.